don't care, can I get over here?
Yeah, but that means what you're doing, and it's still gonna be my turn. Even if I die 2 times, it's still you know. Oh, too late now. Oh, but Onyx is throwing toys at us.
Match. Training time's over. Let's see what you can do.
National Center for Environmental Protection, Central Operations, Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of America. Tropical weather outlook, 800 AM ET, Tuesday, August 12, 2025. QC type image tropical storm air in our SSD icon, satellite. Air expected to be strengthening soon. Likely to become a hurricane later this week in the central tropical Atlantic. Home public has been FCSD discussion with graphics archive, Espanol. So public will discuss ION 34 with the probability, with the probabilities. Earliest reasonable time of arrival of 34 winds, arrival time of winds, with history, wind history. https://www.weather.com/tropical storm area, National Center for Environmental Protection, Central Operations, Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of America. Tropical weather outlook, 800 AM ET, Tuesday, August 12, 2025. QC type image tropical storm air in our SSD icon, satellite. Air expected to be strengthening soon. Likely to become a hurricane later this week in the central tropical Atlantic. Home public has been FCSD with discussion with graphics archive, Espanol. So public will discuss ION 34 analytic probability with speed probabilities. Earliest reasonable time of arrival of 34 winds. Arrival time.
Our first major hurricane of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season is about to unfold in the Atlantic Ocean, and this long-term could impact areas like Bermuda, the Greater Antilles, and even the United States as it continues to track to the west over the next few days and potentially will rapidly intensify. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about Tropical Storm Erin and why this is a concern for some areas. We're going to begin with what's happening across the country today and just to kind of give you a brief overview of what's happening right now. We do have a little storm system that's been ongoing for the last 24 hours in the Central Plains, which did bring quite a bit of severe weather last night to Texas and Oklahoma. We even had a late-night little tornado risk that took place over in southeast Iowa. That is from the remnants of a little mesoscale convective vortex, which is basically a localized area of spin. Now, that is now moving out, and we're not expecting a whole lot more in the way of severe weather for the next few days. But if you're back over the Midwest and even back up here to the northern plains, we'll have to watch for today, tomorrow, and all the way through Friday and Saturday for a more elevated threat of at least some isolated to scattered severe weather. Back over in the Gulf, we've actually been watching a very broad area of spin, and believe it or not, this is actually an area that the National Hurricane Center has outlined for a very low chance of tropical development over the next couple of days. This actually brought a ton of rain over to western Florida, brought over 12 inches of rain to Sanibel, Florida, just a couple of days ago. This will likely continue to spin very broadly in the Gulf, but due to the fact that it's not very favorable when it comes to wind shear and as well as our dry air here, it is likely going going to struggle as it continues to track to the north, but nonetheless, it'll be something that we're keeping an eye on. Now, here's a more zoomed out view of our tropics right now, and this right here is actually Tropical Storm Erin, which did form yesterday morning. This actually has fallen apart quite a bit over the last 24 hours, but it is deceiving because it is actually currently in pretty cold waters as of right now. But as we go into tomorrow, it is going to move into much warmer temperatures, and that is an area that we have basically no wind shear and hardly any dry air. So it's about to enter into a very favorable environment where this will likely rapidly intensify to a hurricane and potentially a major hurricane by this weekend. And here's a view of the entire Atlantic Ocean right now. We have 3 areas that we're keeping an eye on, one of which has basically no chance of formation over the next couple of days in the Gulf. We also have another small area just east of New England, which will probably not become anything either. And then this right here is obviously the big concern, Tropical Storm Erin. It is very far away from any land right now. The closest thing is the Cape Verde Islands, which unfortunately, Tropical Storm Erin has already caused 7 fatalities to Cape Verde because of the major flooding it brought. So this is obviously a big concern for the long term if it gets closer to any land, which it probably will be as we go later into this week, and eventually by the weekend it'll approach the Greater Antilles, perhaps Bermuda, and then perhaps even the United States. And this is the official National Hurricane Center.
The Trump regime had a very delayed response to the news of this flooding. The rainfall. I get that people are lashing out right now because they are sad, they are grieving, they are frustrated. I get that Texas officials are lashing out because they don't want to face responsibility for this. It's not their fault, but likewise, it is not the fault of the National Weather Service. It is the fault of Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the Republicans. When we see more Americans dying because they are not getting adequate notification, adequate warning in advance of these natural disasters, when we see more and more communities that are struggling, unable to recover from these disasters because there's no longer any FEMA funding, there's no federal support to help Americans recover in the wake of floods and tornadoes and hurricanes and wildfires. And to be clear here, we're not just talking about the flooding in the Hill Country today. We're not just talking about the tornadoes that ripped through St. Louis. We're not just talking about the floods in Kentucky and Arkansas that happened, in March and April. We're talking about hurricane season, which is just getting going. We're talking about wildfire season in the West, which has not started yet for this year. We've not even begun to see how much harm will be caused to towns and cities all across this country, how much loss of life there will be. Because
things will change with time. Oh, it's so done. Damn.
Who's that?